Everyone, she's back. Annie's back. I'm here. Hello. Long time no see. My name is Annie. If you didn't know, I just said that, but in case you didn't know, hi, I'm Annie. This is my channel. Welcome back. Can you tell I haven't filmed in a while? Anyway, this is gonna be my best books of 2025 video. I don't even know what I'm doing. It's been so long since I filmed. ASMR. Don't know where the mic is on my phone. Hello, traveler. Hello. Hello, traveler.
Hello, traveller. Happy St. Paddy's Day. Can I get you a pint?
So the time is upon us again. It is the beginning of 2026. Today is January 6th. And I sat down and I thought about all the books that I read last year. And honestly, it was kind of hard picking a top 10. I think the last couple months I've been feeling a bit slumpy. And I was kind of like, I don't think I can even choose 10. And then I ended up having to narrow down my list from like 20. So if you like a video about like honorable mentions or like the books that didn't really make it in, let me know. But it actually turned out that I had quite a good reading year this year. I read 73 books total this year, which I think is part of why I had kind of this sense that I just didn't have a good reading year. And that's because that is about 50 books less than I've been reading the last 2 years prior. So in 2023 and 2024, I did not read as much this year and it was noticeable. Also, I did put them in order from number 10 to number 1. I would say that this list, I could probably change my mind about it even tomorrow or an hour from now, except for the top spot. Like number 1 is solid. The others, I tried, but I was rearranging up until the very last minute before filming. So I really like all these books very much. Book number 10 is The Night Guest by Hildur Knutsdottir. I hope that I'm saying that right. I probably am not. This is from an Icelandic author, and I think it's translated from Icelandic, which is really cool. I don't think I've ever read a book by an Icelandic author before, and I would love to read more of them. I love this book. Basically, this follows, what is her name? Oh, I don't know how to say her. I don't know how to say that name. I think it's Ethan. I'm gonna look up how to pronounce that. I think it's pronounced Ithun. Ithun. So that's, I'm gonna call her Ithun. Again, sorry about pronunciations. We've hit a roadblock with the very first book I'm talking about. Basically, this book opens with our main character, Ithun, trying to get her doctor to believe her, to listen to her, because something's been happening that she can't explain, and people keep brushing her off when she tries to talk to them about it. Every night she goes to bed and then she wakes up the next morning feeling exhausted, like she's just run a marathon. Sometimes her feet are sore, sometimes her legs are sore, sometimes she wakes up and she's covered in dirt. So she's convinced that there must be something going on, but again, no one will listen to her. Also, I'm sorry for the noise outside if you can hear that. I think it's trash day. It was just the only day I could really record this, so I'm sorry if you can hear all those noises, because you probably can. Eventually, our main character takes it upon herself to kind of just explore and investigate what could be happening on her own, and she discovers some pretty crazy things. That's kind of all I'm gonna say. I went into this almost completely blind. I would recommend you do that as well. It's a super fast read. Some of the pages are like that. Also, the audiobook is really good. I actually read this on audiobook and then I purchased a physical copy, but I think the audiobook if you listen at 2 times speed, I think it's maybe 2.5, 3 hours maybe to read. So super speedy, really impactful, and a book that I just couldn't stop thinking about. Like, the ending kind of left me guessing, and I wanted to figure out my theory as to what I thought. So that's another thing I will say without spoiling anything. If you don't like endings that leave you a little bit shook and having to figure things out kind of for yourself, I would not recommend this, but that is exactly the type of thing that I love. So I would highly recommend The Night Guest. It was really good. The next book I'm going to be talking about was my most anticipated release for 2024, and I finally got to it this year, and I really loved it. That is American Rapture. American Rapture by CJ Lead. If you recall, my best book of 2024 was her debut novel, Mayfly, and that's why I was just so excited. I also, guys, I have the arc for her next book on my Kindle right now, and I'm going to finish the book I'm reading, and then I'm gonna start that. It's called Headlights. I can't wait. Basically, Mayfly is this book that honestly I think is probably my favorite book ever written. I read it 2 or 3 times. I wrote my dissertation on it in college. Like, I am obsessed with it. It speaks to me in a way that no book ever has. And I'm someone that doesn't really choose favorites lately, but I think honestly, if there was a book that I had to choose, like, gun to my head, it would be this one. I love it. So naturally, I was really, really excited to get to American Rapture. Obviously, as you know, this is number 9 on my top 10 list this year, which I guess says that I didn't love it as much as Mayfly, and that is okay. I still really liked it. So basically, this book follows a girl named Sophie, who is a little Catholic girl. I think she's 16 or something, and she lives with her parents, who are super strict Catholics. They will not let her have a phone. They don't even barely have mirrors in their house. They control everything she does, basically. And Sophie goes to, surprise, surprise, Catholic school, but she is a bit of an outsider there because she's like more Catholic than everyone else there. She struggles a lot with her Catholic guilt, and also is struggling with the fact that she's, in puberty and having this kind of sexual awakening for the first time. And unfortunately, that all kind of comes at this time in which a pandemic hits, which basically, it's kind of like COVID, but a little part of it has mutated, like a specific strand in Michigan. I think she lives in Wisconsin. I went to the book tour for this, and I got all these things. So it was in Wisconsin. The really extreme forms of this virus basically make people sex crazed and extremely violent. So Sophie has to deal with how kind of overwhelming it is for her just having something from the outside world kind of penetrate the little bubble that she's in, as well as the fact that, she has always been taught that sex is something that's really shameful, and now she's seeing it in this evil, kind of demonic almost way. But what makes matters even worse is that Sophie used to live with her brother and her parents, but her brother got taken away somewhere, and we kind of learn where that was throughout the course of the book. But Sophie's incredibly worried about him, and so she leaves home and goes on a search for her brother across apocalyptic America. She kind of meets people along the way, and it's really beautiful. It's really sad. A lot of parts I did relate to, especially with the Catholic guilt stuff. I was raised Christian. I'm an atheist now, and I still have some difficulty just being comfortable with myself. A lot of the narratives that I learned growing up are still kind of ingrained in me in a bit of a negative way. So I really related to Sophie as a character. I thought like the prose was brilliant, everything was great, the pacing was good, the ending was devastating without spoiling anything. Oh, big trigger warning. There is a animal death in here, a dog death, and it is brutal and it's a couple pages long. So you should be knowing that going in. Also, I totally forgot to mention, this is an extreme horror, same as Bayfly, extreme horrors. Look up trigger warnings if you're worried for both of these. Am I disappointed that CJ Lee didn't come out with something I was like as obsessed with as Mayfly? A little bit, but what we did get was beautiful and I think it will resonate with a lot of people. The next book I have on this list is not gonna be a surprise to anyone that's been watching my channel for a while. I talk about this series all the time, and this is the 5th book in the Veronica Speedwell series, A Murderous Relation by Deanna Raybourn. The Veronica Speedwell series is one of my favorite series ever. It basically follows Veronica Speedwell. She is a lepidopterist, so she captures and like studies butterflies, and she lives in England during the Victorian era, and it basically follows her and her kind of sidekick Stoker, who's a natural historian, as they solve various mysteries and have the best ever slow burn romance in the world. I don't even really like romance, and these books have me like kicking my feet. It's disgusting. In a really good way. As you can tell, I really liked this one. I tabbed it. I'm trying to tab all of them. And since this is basically every book in this series has a different mystery that they're following. This one is around the time of Jack the Ripper, and they are basically trying to prove that someone is not Jack the Ripper because he's been victim to some sort of unfortunate circumstances that make him look kind of like he might be. So that's what this one followed. Honestly, this one would be higher up the list, but I didn't think it was one of the best in this series. Now, this series is still like way up there. Like even a bad book in this series is leagues above other books that I read. This one, I just didn't really feel like the investigation mattered that much at the end. I know it's kind of weird to criticize a book in my best books of the year video, but there were so many things I loved about this in terms of like development between our characters and their relationship and stuff. But when it comes to the mystery plot, this one was just not it. And I think it's especially noticeable because book number 4, A Dangerous Collaboration, which was the one before this, had an amazing mystery. But still, would very much recommend this series, and I need to read more of them next year because I only got to this one in 2025. Number 7 is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. I'm actually reading the sequel, A Drop of Corruption, right now. Thank you, Ian and Lauren, if you're watching this, for lending it to me. I am this far in, so I'm like almost halfway. Really good so far. The Tainted Cup is a book that I was kind of surprised by. I started seeing it everywhere for some reason, kind of over the summer. And then when I first moved over to DC, I ended up going to this sci-fi fantasy book club, and this was the book club pick for that month. So I picked it up while I was in the UK and I read it. Obviously, because I'm reviewing it here. I had heard that this was a fantasy kind of slash detective mystery, and I thought that seemed really cool, but I don't think I was prepared for just how much I would end up loving this book. Basically, this is set in this really cool world. Once a year during the wet season, a big monster attacks this country from the ocean. It's a leviathan. It comes out of the water. It's like almost unimaginably huge, and it attacks the people that live in this country. And every year they have to fight it back. But what's really interesting is that when the monster dies, its body and all the like blood and bones and whatever that was in there will interact with everything around it and cause mutation, specifically kind of plant growth, as you can kind of see like on this cover. So it's a biopunk story, which I hadn't read before and I thought it was really cool. People in this society have actually learned how to kind of take parts of the Leviathan. I just hit myself in the face with this. How to take parts of the Leviathan and develop it into like adaptations for themselves. So we are dealing with people that have different biological enhancements that are only possible through this beast that comes in and kills people every year. I just found it all really fascinating. And in this first book, it's actually, that stuff is almost completely in the background of the main mystery of the story. I feel like we're learning a little bit more about it in the second one, but I found it interesting in the Tainted Cup how all of that was kind of just a backdrop to the mystery that we're faced with in this. So basically our main characters are Anna or Anna. I don't know. I didn't read the audiobook, so I don't know, but it's A-N-A, so I think Anna. Anna and Dinios Cole. Cole is the person that we read from the perspective of, and he's basically like the Watson to Anna's Holmes. And their job is basically to go around the country and solve mysteries to kind of aid in the peace and justice of the empire that they live in. And in this first book, they are kind of newly working together and they haven't done anything too crazy. Like there's been no murders yet, but they are called out to the very outer rims of the empire, very close to where the Leviathan comes on shore during the wet season. So things are a little bit hectic and they're called in to investigate the death of this man who died from a plant sprouting out of him. And that's kind of all I'm gonna say about the plot. It was really good. The pacing was amazing. I love our main characters. They're really like the heart of the story. I also felt like Robert Jackson Bennett just has a really great writing style and was able to balance the two genres that he's working with seamlessly. I really loved it. All in all, it just like, it felt cozy and unique and fun and funny and suspenseful. Like, I don't know. I just ate it up. I am loving the second one, as I keep saying. So yeah, would highly recommend. I love the Tainted Cup. Oh my god, how was that only number 7? I'm taking ages. Okay, for number 6, I kind of cheated because I have multiple books, but it is a series of manga, and that is Hat Atelier by Kamomi Shirahama. I started this year and I read volumes 1 to 12. I think volume 13 is out now, but I have been putting off reading it because volume 12 stressed me out. This series is about this little girl named Coco. I think she's probably like 11 or something. And she lives in this world where there is magic, but not everyone can do it. You have to be born a witch, at least so she believes. But soon into the first volume, she discovers that actually anyone can do magic. And the magic system in this series is based on drawing. So you kind of draw these little signs and symbols and they will do various things. It's a very specific art because it's so specific and hard to kind of get right and can be misused in so many ways. The wizards in this world have basically gatekept magic from everyone else, and they're like, actually, you have to be born like this. You can't just be a witch. Coco discovers this, but accidentally uses magic to turn her mom into stone, which is pretty unfortunate. A wizard named Kifrey comes and takes her under his wing to train her at his atelier to be a witch and hopefully cure her mom. But he kind of has a greater plan in mind. This series is so good. I actually tried reading this last year, like back in 2024, and I didn't get it. I didn't like it. I couldn't see the vision, and I don't know why. I was being stupid. I think I must have been being stupid because I don't know who wouldn't like this book, to be honest. The characters are so vivid and lifelike. Just the way that these kids use their creativity to problem solve and create new spells is really beautiful. And I think that the story overall just feels very hopeful and almost wondrous. Like there's this sense of like wonder in the world around them that kind of rubs off on you as you're reading it, and it's just really beautiful. The art is gorgeous. Honestly, I haven't read a bad volume of it, so I would highly recommend if you're interested in manga. I feel like also this is a good manga to start with if you're trying to get into manga, so I would recommend it for that. Book number 5 is Someone You Can Build a Nest In by John Wiswell. I am obsessed with this book. Actually, should have been high. Maybe it should be higher on here. This is what I mean. I couldn't decide on my list. I'm gonna leave it here for now, but I love this book. This is probably one of the most unique books I've ever read. We follow a kind of formless monster named Shisheshin, and she is living in this kind of medieval fantasy world, I would say. Let me adjust myself. She is like a big blob, basically, and she can digest the bodies of other creatures and take on their shape and imitate them almost perfectly, but not exactly. So she can, you know, eat the bones of a human and kind of build skin and hair and stuff to look like a human and fool pretty much everyone, which she does for most of this book. She is living in hiding outside of this town filled with people that want to hunt her. Specifically, one family in this town has a big grudge against her, and at the beginning of the book, she kills off one of the members of this family. Unfortunately, she's a bit wounded during that conflict, and she escapes, but is not doing very well when she's found by this woman. I think her name's Annabelle, so that's what I'm gonna call her. Annabelle finds Shisheshin and kind of nurses her back to health. Shisheshin, luckily, is in a form that looks human, so Annabelle just thinks that she is human. And Shisheshin and Annabelle start to really bond as they spend more time together, and Shisheshin starts feeling things she hasn't really felt before. She, you know, she thinks Annabelle's pretty, etc. Like they, you know, there's a little romance developing. But then Annabelle's like, hey Shisheshin, like, do you want to help me with this task I really have to do? I just have to find like this beast and kill it. And Shisheshin's like, oh. So Shisheshin is kind of leading Annabelle around, trying to help her catch the beast, when Shisheshin is actually the beast with Annabelle. Shisheshin has got to be one of my favorite characters I've read this year. I know that sounds weird, because she is just a blob. Okay, not just a blob. A blob. Not just a blob. She spends a lot of the book trying to figure out how to imitate humans, which leads to like just really weirdly funny moments, but also some really kind of touching scenes. The bond with her and Annabelle is so sweet, and it's just a very unique story, beautifully written, and I loved it. I didn't know what to expect going in, but I thought it was amazing. Easily one of the most memorable books I've read this year, and I would highly recommend the audiobook as well. I really liked it. Speaking of good audiobooks, number 4 is The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. The audiobook is actually read by him, and it's so good. You need to read it. The Anthropocene Reviewed is a nonfiction book by John Green, whose novels I think we all know and love. I'm looking lovingly at my collection. I only have 3 of them, so that has to change. During the pandemic, John Green was having a bit of a hard time just thinking about our world and trying to find good things in it, as maybe some people today can relate to. And he started to write these little reviews of things about everyday life. It could be things like Diet Coke, or Diet Dr. Pepper, or a specific type of grass. And he kind of compiled these all into this book that is just one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. In a world that I increasingly struggle to feel safe in and happy in, a world that makes me want to retreat to media to just kind of hide from most of the time, it's hard to find things to feel hopeful about. And this book made me realize how much hope there is to be had in the world. And it just is John kind of working through his own feelings of hopelessness and finding peace in the fact that, you know, the world has existed for a long time and it will continue to exist and be okay even after us. And humans do cool things sometimes and are like nice to each other sometimes. And anyway, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but it made me really feel like life was beautiful and worth living and that humanity might be worth saving. And it's gonna make me cry, but I cannot recommend this enough. It was so good. It was so good. And Everything is Tuberculosis has been staring at me, waiting for me to read it for the last couple months. So hopefully I get to that in 2026. Okay, we have reached the top 3. Number 3 is another series of manga, and that is Monster by Naoki Urasawa. So partly this was a reread. I read, I think, the first 3 volumes of the Perfect Edition at the beginning of 2023 or 2024. This year I did read from beginning to end Monster, and it was amazing. It was kind of like awe-inspiring. Monster is set in Germany sometime in the late 1900s. Oh, it's set in the 80s, I believe. And it follows a Japanese doctor named Dr. Tenma, who is living in Germany, being a he's a neurosurgeon. And at the beginning of the series, he has it good. He's dating the director's daughter. The director loves him and makes him write papers for him so that the director can put them in his name. Everything's great, except that Tenma has had some issues with the way that the hospital has been run. Notably that higher class patients are being treated for surgeries before low income patients, which obviously puts the lives of these lower class patients at risk. So Tenma has an issue with that. His girlfriend, the director's daughter, is like, don't worry about it, everything's fine. But one day, Tenma decides to stand up for himself, and it just happens to be on the day that these 2 twins are admitted to the hospital. It's a boy and a girl. The girl is unwounded, but she's basically nonverbal and very traumatized. The boy has been shot in the head, and Tenma decides to, instead of treating, I don't know, some like famous opera person who sprained his leg, he decides to treat this boy, and he ends up saving the boy's life and removing the bullet from his head, and he feels proud of himself, like he did it. And then everything kind of goes to shit. And then the story picks up again, I think 7 years later or something like that. It would appear that the boy that Tenma saved has become the titular monster. And so the series follows Tenma trying to track down this kid and stop him. This series, I think, is regarded as one of the best manga series ever, I believe. Don't quote me, but I think so. I think it's just brilliant. It's actually crazy to me. Like, there are so many characters, the plot lines are really intricate. Like, first of all, there's so many characters and they all are fleshed out. Like, even the side characters have their own goals, their pasts. Urasawa did not leave anything out. It is terrifying. Honestly, the boy, Johan, that Tenma saved, is probably the scariest fictional character I've ever read. Genuinely terrifying. And this story is so full of heart and characters you root for, and it spans, you know, different countries, I don't even know. It is just brilliant, and I can't wait to reread it and like relive it. It was just so good. So if you're interested at all, please go pick it up. You will not regret it, genuinely. It's amazing. Number 2, I think, is going to be on most people's lists this year, and that is probably no surprise. It's Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This book is so good. I think I remember saying at the end of last year that I didn't even want to anticipate this release because I was really worried it would be bad, because I did not like about a songbirds and snakes. This book had no right to be this good. It was kind of crazy. I felt like I was back in middle school, like reading the Hunger Games for the very first time. I haven't felt like this in ages reading a book. I like, how can I, like, you know how the first time you read the Hunger Games, you like don't know who's gonna die yet? You know that like, you know, like almost everyone will die because you're in the games and only one person can really win, but you're like, it's surely not gonna be that bad. That was how this felt. Like in Catching Fire, I think Katniss and Peeta watch the recordings of Haymitch's games, which obviously this follows, and pretty much the whole plot of this book is spoiled there. I didn't remember much of that, which was probably good, but even if you did, I guarantee you don't know everything that happens in here. I feel like Suzanne Collins had such a hard task to like write a book that, you know, the plot of was already kind of known, and she knocked it out of the park. I was devastated. I laughed, I cried, I sobbed. I finished this, I think, and I just stared at the wall for a while, and I am sat for the movie. Genuinely, if you haven't read this yet, if you're like wondering if it's gonna be good, go read it now. It's amazing. And finally, I cheated again. I had 2 books because I really couldn't choose which was best between the first and the second. I think these will also probably be on a lot of lists, but my best books of 2025 are The Will of the Many and The Strength of the Few by James Islington. Guys, these are so good. These are so good. Also, I do own The Will of the Many. My brother has it right now, so all I have right here is The Strength of the Few. I think if I really had to rank them, The Will of the Many, I think, is objectively a bit better than The Strength of the Few, but I just couldn't choose between them, and I didn't want to kick anything else out of my list, so I made them both number 1, and that's fine because it's my video and I can do whatever I want. The Will of the Many is basically this book that is the first in a series. This is number 2, The Strength of the Few, which came out November 11th this past year. But they are set in this world that is basically, it's like a Roman-inspired world with a magic system akin to like a multi-level marketing scheme. Like it's like a pyramid scheme. Basically, you have this thing called will, and your will is all of your mental and physical strength. So without it, you feel sluggish, you move slower, you can't think as clearly, etc., etc. And the people at the very top of society basically get the will from a whole bunch of people, and they're like superhuman. And the people at the very bottom are giving up half their will and not receiving from anyone else. So this empire called the Catanan Empire are the people who are kind of enforcing these will pyramids. They have essentially conquered this whole continent. And our main character, Viz, is a prince of a kingdom that stood up against the hierarchy, which is this, you know, pyramid scheme, magic system, and got completely wiped out. His whole family died, and he's the only survivor. And when we meet him in the first book, he's kind of undercover, just trying to get by with a lot of anger and resentment, until he's adopted by a high-ranking member of the military. He basically wants to train Viz and send him to this school for all the elite children of the empire so that Viz can look into the murder of his brother, which happened several years ago. Unfortunately for Viz, there's also a rebel group trying to stand up against the Catanan Empire that know his real identity and also want to control him. So the first book is him kind of juggling all these different people that want to control him and trying to figure out a mystery that I won't really say anything about. I feel like that synopsis wasn't that good. It was a little cluttered, but I hope you still liked it. When I tell you, I was reading the first book and I was like, this is really good. I really love this. I really love this. I think this is probably the best book I've read this year. And then I finish it The ending of the first book is genuinely the craziest thing. Like the craziest thing. I was in awe. I was shocked. And I think I finished that book maybe in July, and I was already Googling when this one would come out. And this book did not disappoint either. This was crazy. I just finished this, I think maybe last week. And yeah, while I mentioned it does have a couple flaws, I still enjoyed it so much. I have no idea what's gonna happen next. But I'm on the edge of my seat for the third book, and I don't think we're getting it for another year. And I don't really know what to do with myself. So yeah, I hope that you should read it. Actually, you should read it so that we can be in pain together and we can talk about it. We can talk about it and it'll be nice. If you have read this, please let me know in the comments. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it, and I'm not really okay. Those are hands down, like it's not even close. Those are the best books I've read this whole year. So that was kind of long. So thank you if you're still here. If you like this video, give it a like and leave a comment letting me know what your favorite books were in 2025. Also, if you've read any of these, I'd love to hear what you thought about them. Let's start a conversation in the comments. As always, let me know if you'd like to see any videos from me. I would be happy to make them for you. Also, if you've reached this point in the video, leave is there a pyramid emoji? Leave either a pyramid emoji or like a triangle for the will of the many. And I am gonna go. I will see you in my next video. I think I'm gonna do a worst of 2025 video. I'm not sure if it's gonna have 10 books in it because I think I chose them all right this year, but I definitely, I have things to say. So keep an eye out for that, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.
Tasty.
Funny seeing you here. Hi, she's back, everyone. Annie's back, and I'm Annie. Oh, hey, funny seeing you here. Could you imagine if that was how I started my videos? It's kind of funny, but I think it'd be scary for new people. Funny seeing you here. Maybe if I did it less seductively. Let's see. Oh my god, hey. Hey, what are you doing here?